Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit Azabi here, back again with My Hero Academia Season 5. We are on episode 19, and in the last episode, we kind of ended off a sort of a, you know, like a mini arc, if you will, where the likes of Deku, Bakugo, and Shoto, of course, all went to Endeavor's agency to work under him, and to basically work around their weaknesses and everything like that, and like how they want to become stronger and everything. And by the end of it, they all sort of kind of got there. I mean, in terms of like where Deku is with his Black Whip, I don't know if it's just going to be that easy of, well, now he can just pull it out and he's got it all sorted now. I don't know if that is totally true. So, you know, there's that. But, I mean, he did manage to pull it out in a time of need, which Deku tends to do anyway. But, like, the likes of Bakugo, specifically in a way of using his quirk to traverse in a much, like, sort of quicker fashion, he now knows how to do that. It's basically just concentrating the power and building it up and releasing it all at once, essentially, to, you know, and using that to traverse. And in the end, Natsu got taken by a villain who Endeavor previously had a whole thing with, called Ending, I believe was his name. And yeah, he wanted to be murdered by Endeavor. That didn't happen. What a surprise. Shoto obviously took him out, and Deku, obviously the bystanders or the people that were in their cars, he saved those. So they all achieved a great feat, and in doing so, capturing a villain and rescuing people faster than Endeavor did. Now, of course, you've got to caveat that with the whole thing of, like, this was very sort of personal around Endeavor and his family. And by the end, he has basically decided to create a new house, or build a new house, or buy a new house, whatever, closer to the sort of like the hospital institution place that Rei is in, because she's getting dispatched soon, where all of them can live, and Endeavor's going to sort of keep away from them for now, which I think is the right thing to do. You know, it's going to be too much all at once if Endeavor is there along with the family, so I feel like it's best to just keep things moving at a slower pace, and they will get there eventually. So yeah, but other than that, that was pretty much it, and it was really, really cool to see. To see that progression, specifically with Natsu, because, you know, he's the one that's kind of the most like removed from trying to get back with the relationship with his father. And we got some information on Toya as well, which was interesting, because I thought that was the kid with red hair. We've already been through this. Turns out he has white hair. So I have no idea. I don't know if we're going to get any more information on that going forward. Who knows? But yeah, we'll wait and see on that. But anyway, yeah, I don't think there's anything else really to talk about, so we are going to get into episode 19 and see what we get. So, as always, the reaction will be here on YouTube, but if for whatever reason it gets taken down for copyright in the future, I will re-upload this as a discussion only, and a link to the reaction will be in the description below. As always, the link to the full length will be in the description below, so if you don't want to watch my full-length reaction to this episode and not just the cut 10-minute version, then the offer is there for you. But yes, nothing else really to talk about, so we're going to get in episode 19, see what we get. So without further ado, let's go.
Our first year at UA seemed like it'd flown by, and suddenly, there were just 3 months left.
My classmates,
3 months left,
Happy New Year to you all. So comrades, it's time to suit up and head over to Ground Alpha.
So for 3 months left, that means
An auspicious New Year, sir.
leave it in March or
I've
beginning of
apprised them
April.
the schedule per your instructions. Thankfully, Manuel, the hero with whom I apprenticed at my work study, is a leader in Hosu. How to work hard without being uptight. Heck yeah, that's the only way to live.
Oh, God.
Mr. Aizawa, please report to the staff room immediately.
That dark energy thing? That black ribbon stuff that shot out of your army, Doria?
But I still can't control it for more than a moment, and its uses are pretty limited.
Right, so he can't
But
fully
it's
control
strong.
it still yet.
No! Midoriya! Oh my god!
Oh my God.
That is gray matter oozing out!
Midoriya!
He literally stuck it in his head.
Basically,
It's still there.
My body.
Fuck.
The sense of speed is too
What's he
different,
doing?
So you can't keep it going if you get in your head while you
Guys,
use it.
I put all my might into this one gag and you're completely ignoring it.
Are you okay, All Might?
I'm fine, and I am here, the symbol of sweet. Get it? Sweet.
Damn, that's his...
Can't you make this thing go any faster?
No, it's not.
Enough already.
It's President
Relax.
Mike's. Never seen President Mike look this,
During the fight at the USJ, he didn't act like he would have. This is too far.
What?
I, for one, refuse to believe it.
Something to do, fucking hell, way back at the USG.
I know I'm not telling you anything new. They're not living humans. They're complete messes. Everything from their brains to their hearts.
They're marionettes with no will of their own. Or at least that's what we thought.
We have to provide background and be thorough.
Someone they know.
Or else what you're about to hear might be too much to bear. If we can get him to spill some intel, we'd be able to hit them where it hurts. But unfortunately, he's shown no sign that he'll open up. It's sophisticated.
Weird.
So it took us a long time to figure out what was going on.
Oh, Kurogiri.
They've combined a bunch of quirk factors.
Forgot about
The
him.
base with others added to form a single new quirk. Turns out, it belonged to a kid you were quite familiar with in your UA days. A young boy who lost his life way too soon. We found out that this base quirk is a very close match to Oboro Shirakumo's.
Fuck.
Once upon a time,
One of
we
ah
were
this.
working hard to become heroes together.
They made a an off comment about
Shota!
this like
He's a she.
some episodes ago,
I've been
didn't
thinking
they?
when we graduate, we should start a hero agency. I mean, there's 3 of us after all. So even if one of us slips up, there's no doubt the other 2 will always have his back. You know what I'm always saying. Shota's got an eye for detail. No pun intended. She's a master at negotiating.
Gotta think it over before I agree.
What is there to think about? Let's just do it.
When Oboro Shirakumo died, he got caught in a collapsing building. There 1 second and gone the next.
Bloody hell.
He dreamed of the 3 of us starting an agency.
In other words, Kurogiri is a kind of Nomu. And there's a high probability that the base of his quirks was adapted by using Oboro Shirakumo's remains.
That's crazy.
Remember what they used to call us? Class A's 3 dumb egos.
Fucking hell.
Doesn't make any damn sense.
Do you want to know why we often attack UA? Where else can one find such a concentration of outstanding quirks?
He went on to say it was like being a dog under the table at a 5-star restaurant. How disgusting. But I imagine that before the cremation, he just swapped out Oboro Shirakumo's body and turned him into one of his insane Nomu marionettes.
Well, screw it anyway.
That's dark.
Do you think our connection will lead to a miracle?
Take the Nomu that Endeavor defeated in Kyushu. The report says it had a distinct personality, and that it displayed a hyperfixation on powerful fighters. When they analyzed its DNA, they found that its original body belonged to a common hoodlum who made his living as an underground street fighter. Makes sense, doesn't it?
But I'll emphasize again, if you can just get him to talk, it'd be a major...
I can't believe it's a form of Nomu. That's mad.
Mike, Eraserhead.
Oh Christ.
I want you to reawaken Oboro Shirakumo's mind.
This is nuts.
His family?
If you 2 can't get through to him, we're going to ask them to see him next.
Yeah.
I would never allow his parents to think their son became something so disgusting.
What an unexpected guest. I don't think we've met since the UA raid.
Even when Eraser looks at him, the haze hangs around. I guess his body doesn't have a normal form.
Nice, yeah.
How is Tomura Shigaraki doing?
Are you concerned about Shigaraki?
Indeed, it's my duty to look after him. I never questioned it. I'm not the type to neglect a friend.
I remember.
What?
The kind of guy who would take in a stray kitten after I had pointedly ignored it. That kind of guy. I was always hesitating. I didn't have a heart like you.
Shota Aizawa, huh?
Just a really, really
Hi,
good guy.
I'm Shirakumo. So nice to meet you, Shota, buddy.
He'd befriend anyone, right?
Shota, the
That kinda...
cafeteria seats are gonna fill up. Come on. I'll lend you my goggles.
Shit.
Check it out. Now we match.
You acted on instinct,
So he still has
I
those that
overthought.
he uses.
but you pulled me along, never worrying about consequences. Despite the fact that a single misstep would mean your death.
Oh.
Yamada and I are teachers now. I've been incredibly strict with my students.
Expulsion goes on our permanent record. How will we ever get jobs?
The authority to expel and re-enroll them?
Yes, sir. Sacrifice for others is different than throwing your life away. When these naive kids get the two mixed up, I can expel them, give them a little death so they'll learn. Then I'll enroll them. That way they know what's at stake and they'll strive to reach even higher.
I didn't want them to make the same fatal mistake you did. I didn't want them to become heroes who devalue their own lives in the name of empty justice. I wanted to shape them into heroes who motivate and inspire.
Get through.
Shirakumo!
If you're in there, if there's any trace of my friend left at all.
The three of us, we could still do it.
Who is producing the Nomu? Where's Shigaraki hiding?
Even if what they say is true, and all that's left of my friend is sitting behind this glass. Tell me, the monster who did this to you! Where'd they take you to mess with your brain? When you last saw me, when you attacked UA, did you really feel nothing at all?
I don't.
Damn it, talk to us!
Answer the question, Shirakumo!
You're over, Shirakumo!
It's practically flatlined again.
I am Kurogiri.
Fuck! Oh god, but I kind of see him in there.
His brainwaves.
Quiet.
Yes, you can fight this!
Come on, Shirakumo! I mean, there's three of us after all. So even if one of us slips up, there's no doubt the other two will always have his back.
Hospital.
Hey!
Eraserhead.
I think that was it.
Present, Mike. That's enough.
Fucking hell, man.
Are your eyes okay?
He had them open the whole
Try, but no big deal.
the whole time. That was heavy,
He
man.
said hospital.
How's Kurogiri?
He shut down like he short-circuited or something.
I made you reopen painful wounds. But trust me, something good has come out of it.
These Nomu. What exactly are they? What's the point of creating such monsters?
Who can say? Who cares? My sole concern here is ensuring there will be no further victims.
Yeah.
I'll do whatever that requires.
Right then. I'd better send this up the chain. Hospital.
There's a thug raging around at Wakagumo Hospital, requesting backup.
I'm busy right now. I'll have to pass. You want anything?
Black coffee with lots of milk and tons of sugar.
Cool, you got it.
God.
Hospital. The pieces had fallen into place.
A human with his ego still perfectly intact, who possesses unlimited power.
Ah, this guy.
Being whom All for One and I have sought all this time. Excellent, Tomura Shigaraki. You're coming along nicely. Better than I ever imagined.
Jesus Christ. Oh, fucking hell. What on earth? Okay, episode 19. Wow. That went a direction I wasn't expecting at all. It's crazy to think that like Kurogiri is actually essentially just another Nomu, but the form is completely different. It's insane to me. But the idea, like at the end of the episode, where essentially like the last scene where we see, you know, the mad scientist dude who, you know, we've gotten glimpses of before. We see him essentially. I don't really know if torturing is the correct like word for exactly what was happening there, but it's almost like after this episode, I'm more inclined to believe that everything is still with like All for One being this marionette. I mean, Gran Torino like threw out that word, and I think it's like almost like the correct term. I'm just wondering if what they're doing is trying to instill, kind of have this control over over Shigaraki as well, because I mean, previous attempts of exactly like what they've been doing is essentially creating these, you know, these essentially like these husks of just of meat that follow orders, and they've essentially become brain dead. But then you've got the likes of Kurogiri now, who we have learnt that he's a form of Nomu, but he has more. I don't know. There's like there is cognitive thought in there, like to a degree. I mean, at the end of the day, Kurogiri is still being ordered, you know. And it's interesting, like going back and just like remembering like times like with Kurogiri that yeah, like he has always been like one that has just taken orders from Shigaraki, but he was put in a. I don't know, like, he was put in a place in the show where, like, it just felt like he was essentially a sidekick, or, like, you know, a sidekick to Shigaraki the villain, and, you know, but he was his own person. And to learn that he's not really is crazy. I just wonder if that's what they're trying to attempt with Shigaraki as well. But, I mean, we've heard before that All For One has claimed that Shigaraki's the one to sort of take over the mantle and everything like that. So I don't know. But the way that I am almost looking at it is that these experiments that they were doing that created these Nomu and everything like that were, they would, like, All For One had the mad scientist, like, be doing all of this stuff to, I assume, reach some kind of, you know, pinnacle of being able to give certain people like a vast array of quirks without their brains just turning to mush, and they just become these essentially fucking fleshy robots. So I don't know, it could be either or with Shigaraki. I still hold this kind of idea that All For One's still using him anyway. But that was a crazy scene there at the end. Like, he has this whole fucking I don't even know what to describe it. Some pipe that was in his abdomen, like jutting out of his stomach, and whatever the fuck that is doing. And obviously he's tied up to this, like, you know, these electrical circuits and everything that's shocking him and everything. But it's interesting. I wonder if that's why his hair has changed, or if that's how they've sort of retconned his hair again. Because what was it, like some episodes back where we saw Shigaraki in Deka City, and I was like, that's not Shigaraki because it's not his hair. And then people were telling me that it is Shigaraki. It's just that they were going with what his hair was actually like in the manga, which is white as opposed to this light blue or whatever. And we know that, like, if you know, if people are tortured and everything like that, or like they're having insane stress, it can turn people's hair like grey or white. So I wonder if a lot of that, like, kind of shock therapy that he's getting is forcing that, maybe, and that's their way of almost retconning that in. I don't know. I just don't know to what degree, like, because I don't know if this has been happening for, like, with Shigaraki throughout the whole show. You know, I feel like this is almost like when like they were testing it on other people to get to a point where they can now test it on Shigaraki without, like I say, without his brain turning to mush, and they're giving him other quirks, and that's what that is. And I assume, like, Shigaraki came in knowing exactly all of this process and everything, and was, like, willingly came in and hooked himself up to this whole thing to, you know, to get him to this point. And because that's the thing, is, like, it makes me wonder, like, when, you know, when he destroyed Deka City, like, there wasn't much to go on of how he destroyed it. More or less it just destroyed around him and he was in the middle of it. But you know, we never saw him actually use his original quirk in there, right? I mean, that's the other thing as well, I guess, with him, like, his quirk to decay. I guess that's another question, was that a natural quirk that he had already? Because I'm beginning to think it wasn't. Because we know the mother. We know the mother is Nana Shimura. And as far as we're aware, she didn't have any quirk that was aligned with that. That being said, we don't know the father either. So, there's that, I suppose. So yeah, I don't know. Well, that being said, was... Not... God, actually I can't remember now. Was Nana Shimura the grandmother of Tomura? Or the mother? Can't remember. Regardless, it's, you know, it could be either or in a case of, like, whether or not his natural quirk was the decay anyway. But anyway, back to the original point, is that we never saw him actually use his decay quirk to destroy the city. And if he did, I mean, he would literally be walking by buildings and just, you know, just continuously just, like, you know, taking down all of the like, you know, the struts of the buildings and everything like that, so it would all collapse in on themselves. But yeah, it seems as though that's the way that they were going about it, is they were trying to get to a point where they could force quirks on people without their brains turning to mush, so that they could get to this point where they can use it on Shigaraki without having to worry about that. And Kurogiri was like a possible... I guess that's the other thing, is that we don't know when Kurogiri was in terms of that experiment, you know? Like, how many Nomus that we know them are, like, you know, they've got that distinct, more like kind of just muscular, purpley kind of flesh thing going on. I wonder how far down the line that was before Kurogiri was tested on it, and that became, and then he became Kurogiri that way, you know. It's mad when you think about it, because we don't know do we know their exact age? I wanna look this up, because this, like, you can get a good sense of how long they must have been doing this for, if because they were still in high school when Shirakumo died, right? So Shoda Aizawa age. It says 30 before, 31 currently. So I don't know if that means like 31 currently in like I guess where the manga's currently at. I don't know, but yeah. So I mean, we're talking a good 15 years possibly, roughly 15 years ago is when Shirakumo died, and then it had to have been pretty much directly after that they got, you know, they essentially used his body to create this whole thing, which, you know, like, it couldn't have been left a hell of a lot longer immediately after he died. So that fucking mad scientist is the guy, isn't it, in like episode 1, that tells Deku about, like, the whole thing with, like, what is it, like the bone in the foot or whatever, and how he'll never get a quirk. That's the same person, isn't it? It is, because they were talking, like, I mean, Shirakumo, what was left of him in there to a degree, was able to tell them hospital. And of course he would go to a hospital. In episode 1, Deku and, you know, his mother did go there to a hospital to get that kind of diagnosis. And that would have been the same hospital that this guy's basically under he's doing his own evil shit experiments under the guise of actually being a proper doctor. I mean, it's not the case of being under a guise. I mean, he is a doctor, but he's doing this other shit, like, unbeknownst to everyone else. But then how the fuck do you get away with that? You know what I mean? Like, where's he got this massive, you know, like, place in the hospital where he can get away with this and no one's found out about it, you know? Unless like he has some ownership over the hospital and he's created this sort of thing maybe in like the basement of it that like only he knows how to get to, like he has access to. But that's crazy when you think about it. Like, that's dark, man. That's probably the darkest thing, I think. I don't know if we've seen anything darker than this throughout the show. But it's crazy to think that this is being performed in a hospital. So how many other people who have died, this guy's been using their bodies for this shit? Because I guarantee it can't be only Shirakumo that this is like, you know. God, it came out of like, well, I was going to say it came out of left field, but yeah, like there was a sort of a throwaway comment that was made some episodes back where Aizawa was, I don't know, President Mike like came out into like the corridor and like said something to Aizawa about like, I think actually he name dropped Shirakumo right then, I think. I just can't remember where, like what episode it was really. Yeah, there it is. Episode 12. Yeah, there was something like it was like in response to like Shinso or something, right? Like I think it was it when he, I think it was when he was in the sort of like the room with all the other teachers and he was like going through the footage in regards to like Shinso and everything, and I guess getting him up to the hero course and everything like that. And then he walked out into the corridor and President Mike joined him or something, and there was something exchange where it was like you know, Aizawa sees some of Shirakumo in Shinso, all wanting him to learn how to be a hero properly, because that was the other thing in this episode, like with you know, the reason why Aizawa did that whole like, you know, expulsion thing and everything, and a lot of it comes down to what happened with Shirakumo, because you know he doesn't want any of the kids or you know to end up like he did and are all completely ready for anything, you know, to be on alert. And he wanted students that inspire and motivate, and at the end of the day he's ended up with a class that is definitely does that. So, you know, and he didn't have to expel any of them either, so you know, there is that. But it's interesting, we've got a little look at a previous you know, class that where he did actually expel them and everything, but he does it out of the, you know, for the greater good, if you want to, you know, put that phrase to it. The idea that, you know, because they are being expelled, that they know that, like, he calls it a temporary, like a temporary death or like something like that, which is like, you know, a death that, you know, you don't actually die from it, but it's giving you this kind of, you know, this sense of like when they do come back, they'll understand, you know, exactly what is on the line, so that, you know, when it actually comes down to it and they're doing their hero work and everything, that they're ready and hopefully, like, you know, not end up like Shirakumo, you know. So yeah, just a crazy episode. The whole goggles thing comes from him as well. That was something that Aizawa's carried on from Shirakumo, as the goggles to keep them sort of like lubricated and everything. It's another thing as well is like how long Aizawa kept his eyes open for. That whole friggin' time he kept them there, and he'd never put on his goggles once either. That could be like the longest time he's ever had them open for, like consistently, you know. Yeah, just a crazy fucking episode. Something I really just was not expecting. but it's really, really good stuff. It's a really like enthralling episode to get more, because this is something that's like come back, you know, like in little moments, like this whole idea of like what the hell these Nomus are and everything, and the fact that you go like all the way back to season 1 where, you know, All Might has his first big massive fight, you know, that episode, and he takes out the, you know, the Nomu with the plus ultra like punch, and he goes basically flies into the stars. Eventually they do obviously pick him up and you know, restrain him and take him in, and then ever since then they've just been, you know, trying to figure out exactly what these like Nomus are and everything. And you know, we'll get Sakauchi call up All Might, and we'll get some information here and there, and now the fact like we're in episode 19 of season 5, and we've learned so much more about like it's crazy to me that Kurogiri's a Nomu, man, because I like we were so in terms of a viewer watching it, like we were so sure we knew what the Nomus were in terms of a physical capable like kind of being. Like even the one that attacked Endeavor, even though that one was kind of like extraordinary because we've never seen a Nomu actually have any real like ability to talk and have any real cognitive thought, and that one did, but it still retained like the physical attributes of what you associate with a Nomu. And learning that Kurogiri's one is mad. Like the only physical attribute that you can sort of attach Kurogiri to a Nomu is the fact that the sort of the void or the warp that is essentially what the whole body's ended up being is purple. That's it. So it's just crazy. But I love shit like that though. I love shit that like comes out of nowhere that has been hidden in plain sight the whole time. You know? To keep it like, to keep that under wraps from anyone think. I would be so... There's no way anyone has figured that out beforehand, right? Before reading it. There's no way anyone's figured that on their own, like, what if Kurogiri's a Nomu? No chance. No fucking chance has anyone done that. I would be shocked if anyone figured that out before this, because I mean the only thing that like there are reasons as to why you can understand why he's a Nomu, but only in hindsight after the fact when you're told that he is actually a form of Nomu, because he follows orders. That's what he does. But then because of the fact that he is alongside Shigaraki, we already know, like, going into it, Shigaraki's the sort of like the head of this like League of Villains and everything, so of course regardless he's going to be taking orders whether or not he's a human or a Nomu anyway. The only, like, you know, the attribute for everyone watching the show about what a Nomu is something that is basically a massive just like of flesh that is essentially a robot that just follows orders. There's not really any human factor in there. It's just, you know, Nomus are essentially like something that's almost manufactured, and you can tell what a Nomu is. But then this is just blowing that out of the water, and now it's just a case of like, fuck, like, I mean, is there any more form of Nomu? Like, for example, right, if we go to this theory, like the thing that I was talking about before with Shigaraki, and are they basically like all these experiments leading to this point where they can use it on a human to not try to like deform them or anything like that? Like, would you associate Shigaraki as a form of Nomu then, if that's the case? You know, like to where does the Nomu thing title end? Where does that stop? You know, because I'm just thinking like who else really? I guess you wouldn't exactly call Shigaraki a form of Nomu. I think the term of a Nomu is something that is more like less human, so something that is not truly really human at all, and it's just become a something that takes orders, and that's it, you know. But it's just crazy when you just look at Kurogiri and you just think like, well, how was that any different? I assume the experiment was the same that they did with the Nomus. They just did it, you know. Or is it specifically because of the way that Shirakumo died? Like, they talked about the idea that they used Shirakumo's remains, and I mean, you have to note the fact that he was essentially crushed under a building. So, how much was left of him is possibly the reason as to why Kurogiri has become that way inclined as a Nomu. God, it's crazy. Like, when you think about like how dark it is, and like I've just literally thought about that one moment at the USJ where Uraraka's like, he must have a physical body in here somewhere. Like, if you just think about it like that, that's dark, man. It's so dark. That's horrible. Like, God. Like, Shirakumo's like essentially like mashed up corpses in there, surrounded by this like warp thing that is like, and Uraraka was essentially honing in on that to float that. God, man, it's so dark when you think about it like that. That's horrific. Oh. But I assume that must be why Kurogiri is a different kind of Nomu. Like, it's just turned out a bit different, because if you think about it, like, the other Nomu, it's almost like they have full bodies of the people that they are forcing quirks upon then, you know. The one time we actually did get a look at that is the one guy whose like, brain was already, like, kind of, like, fried, and I think you get, like, a photo of him, and he's basically sitting in the chair, like, and he's completely brain dead. But he's a full human dude, you know? So it transforms into what there is to transform. But if like, Shirakumo's like, whatever was left of him, I don't think it's possible to get a human body straight out of that. So, you know? God, that is dark, man. That is dark. I mean, I like it. I do. Like, you know, I was saying that, you know, the opening and everything, the tone of this arc seems to be going down a more darker route, and I was asking about, like, well, how dark can they really, like, are they really going to go with it? This is pretty dark, but, you know, I like it. I like it when a show at least has the balls to go a bit further than you would possibly expect, you know? I mean, I guess this show has always had, like, sort of dark moments anyway, but, like, you know, I do like those ones, because it forces like a show that has a lot of these, like, kind of like joyous and happy moments, and you see them at school, and you know they're enjoying themselves and everything, and doing their little, like, you know, their courses, having Christmas and everything, and you know, and then when you have that sort of just stark reality just like hit them in the face and everything, and things just turn, and it's like, fuck, you know what I mean? Because I know that, like, that's when things get serious, you know, and when things get serious in this show, like, that's when it's at its best. So, you know, I expect that, you know, this arc and going forward, that, you know, there's still going to be dark moments, you know, but I don't know, like, this might be the darkest yet. It's crazy to think about, man. But yeah, I mean, Shirakumo's never coming out of there. They basically, you know, Aizawa had resigned to that and accepted it, that, you know, even if we get anything from Shirakumo in there, it can't, like, be a permanent thing. It's interesting the way that it, like, reset. Like, when I talk about it being like a fleshy robot, it's interesting, like, if you think about it as a robot, it's actually not too far away from that, because the idea that, like, you know, they were you know, testing the sort of, like, the brain activity on it, and things like that, that it got to a point where it practically just, I mean, they said it as, like, short-circuited, like, it reset. So it's crazy that even though there isn't any real form of, like, electrical current, or, like, it's being, like, you know, it's being powered by a battery or anything like that, even though there's none of that, it's still acts like it would have something like that. It's crazy. I'm happy we got this though, because like, for example, like just seeing, you know, Aizawa's been in some situations in this show, but we've never seen him like mentally crack almost, you know. So to see him see his character actually be put under that kind of strenuous like kind of situation, because he's learned that his friend is in there. Like, there's not much I think that would mentally break Aizawa. I think he's like very, you know, because he's always had this sort of like cool, calm persona that, like, you know, like he thinks things through and everything. Like, he's mentally strong as a character. So there's not much I feel like that would push him to that kind of, you know, to that kind of stress, and this one did. And it was interesting to see that. And also Present Mike as well. Like, we didn't get a lot of Present Mike more so than Aizawa. Like, Present Mike was, even though, you know, they were like that kind of trio or whatever, he was more like put to the side over what Aizawa was. As you know, Aizawa is obviously the more sort of important character in the show than Present Mike, obviously, you know. But even seeing just Present Mike, like, sort of, you know, that first look at him where he's like, you know, and when he's in the car and he's driving and he's, you know, he's got that like sort of just like sort of like worried, doesn't know what the fuck's going on kind of face that you just never see from him, because he's a very sort of a comedy style character, right? He's there for you know, I mean he's the narrator, for Christ's sake, of some things. So, you know, it's like he plays a role that is more akin to comedic effect rather than, you know, actually being a part of like some kind of serious story. So to even see him, like, you know, like when he puts his hand on, you know, Aizawa, like tell him to calm down, he's just not calm either. Like, shit like that is really, that's the kind of shit that's compelling for characters anyway. It's like when you see the different sides of them, because you know that's when it's serious, that, you know, that's when it's great, I feel like. So when you get characters that have a way of, like, their persona as a whole generally doesn't change a lot, but then they're put into a situation where you get to see another side of them. I think that's the best thing about characters, is when you can do that with them. So to see them both like in that kind of like that way inclined in this episode was really, really compelling. So I liked it a lot. And it was, yeah, I mean, it was a heavy episode. So when I come out and say, like, you know, oh, I like that, I really like that, you know, it's not like out of like, you know, it's heavy and it's horrific and everything, but it's compelling. That's probably the best word I can use, is compelling. So yeah, really, really cool episode. And going forward, again, I'm just excited to see what we get next. So yeah, anyway, that was all I've got. So thank you for watching. In the description below, I have links to certain things. One of them is the Discord, so you can get yourself over there if you wish. And I also have a Patreon page as well, so if you do support me on Patreon, that'd be very much appreciated. There is a bunch of different tiers and rewards there, like early access, that will give you access to shows a week early. There's the full-length tier, which gives you access to full-length reactions, so all of the shows that I do, it's all in full length and not just the cut 10-minute versions. And there is the exclusive tier, which gives you access to the full-length movie reactions and everything like that. There is a movie coming out very, very, very soon, okay? A movie reaction. Look forward to that. Yeah, that's all I've got. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.